What happens when an undercover CEO witnesses a teenage employee being humiliated by his own manager in front of a crowd, only to deliver a response that leaves everyone speechless? The late afternoon sun streamed through the windows of Grill & Go, casting long shadows across the faded tile floor. The scent of sizzling burgers and salty fries filled the air. But behind the counter, the mood was anything but warm. Ryan stood at the prep station, meticulously stacking burger patties onto buns. His fingers moved quickly, but not quickly enough. For Kyle, "Pick it up, Ryan." Kyle's sharp voice cut through the chatter of customers. "We're not running a snail farm back here." "Yes, sir," Ryan muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. He kept his head down, focusing on the burgers. He'd already messed up twice today, and Kyle never let mistakes slide. Kyle loomed closer. "You think mumbling's gonna cut it? Speak up when I talk to you." Ryan swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. That's better." Kyle turned away but fired one more jab over his shoulder. "If you spent less time daydreaming and more time working, you might actually be useful." Ethan sat quietly at a corner booth, disguised beneath a worn baseball cap and zip-up hoodie. He had seen enough already. The insults, the intimidation, the way Kyle barked orders just loud enough for customers to hear. But Ethan knew this wasn't the right moment to intervene. He needed to see the full picture. Ryan finished assembling the tray for the next customer. He forced a smile as he slid it across the counter to a man with 2 kids. "Thank you for choosing Grill & Go," Ryan said. "Thank you, young man," the father replied warmly. "Don't thank him yet," Kyle muttered from the fryer station. "If that burger's half as slow as he is, it's probably still frozen inside." Ryan winced, but he said nothing. Ethan's stomach tightened. Kyle wasn't just harsh, he was relentless. Moments later, a teenager approached the counter. Her hair was tied back in a messy ponytail, and she wore a brightly coloured jacket with a heart-shaped patch on the sleeve. She was barely older than Ryan. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I think my order's missing fries." Ryan glanced nervously at Kyle, who had overheard the request. "You forgot the fries," Kyle barked. Unbelievable. He snatched a container from the warming station and practically slammed it into Ryan's chest. "Try keeping your head out of the clouds for 5 seconds." The teenager flinched at Kyle's outburst. "It's okay," she said quickly. "It's not a big deal." "It is a big deal," Kyle snapped. "Maybe if Ryan cared about his job, he'd get something right for once." Ryan's face reddened, and his hands shook as he handed the girl her fries. "I'm really sorry," he murmured. "You should be," Kyle sneered. "I can't carry this place on my back forever." Ethan's fingers tightened around his cup. He could feel the tension simmering beneath Kyle's words. But still, this wasn't quite the moment to act. Minutes later, the dinner rush hit. The line grew, orders piled up, and Ryan scrambled to keep up. He juggled trays, filled drinks, and packed orders as quickly as he could. But then it happened. A tray of drinks slipped from Ryan's hands. The sodas hit the counter with a splash, spraying cola and ice everywhere. "Seriously?" Kyle's voice boomed, loud enough that half the dining room turned to look. "Can you do anything right?" I'll clean it up," Ryan stammered, grabbing a cloth. "Don't bother," Kyle spat. "You'll just make it worse." He shoved Ryan aside and started wiping the counter himself. "I swear," Kyle muttered under his breath. "I should have fired you weeks ago." Ryan froze. His breath hitched, and his eyes brimmed with tears. He turned away, trying to compose himself. Ethan's heart twisted. He'd seen enough. "Excuse me," Ethan said, rising from his seat. He stepped forward, casually adjusting his hat. Kyle barely glanced up. "We're busy. If you need something, wait your turn." "Actually," Ethan said, lowering his voice, "I've already been waiting long enough." He watched as Kyle's eyes narrowed. "I think it's time you and I had a little chat." Kyle straightened. "And who exactly are you?" Ethan smiled. "Just A little. Let's just say, I know more about this place than you think. The afternoon rush had faded, leaving Grill and Go's dining area quiet and still. The overhead lights flickered faintly, buzzing in the silence. Ryan moved from table to table, wiping surfaces with slow, deliberate swipes. His shoulders sagged, and his eyes stayed low, like he was trying to become invisible. Kyle stood by the register, arms crossed, his gaze locked on Ryan. His lips curled in a twisted smile, like he was waiting for a mistake. In the corner, Ethan sat quietly, a forgotten tray of cold fries and a half-eaten burger in front of him. He hadn't touched his food since Kyle started in on Ryan earlier. Each insult had been sharp, calculated. Ethan could see it. Kyle wasn't just being strict. He was breaking Ryan down, piece by piece. Come on, Ethan muttered under his breath. Leave him alone. But Kyle wasn't done yet. You, still dragging your feet over there? Kyle barked, his voice slicing through the air. How long does it take to wipe a table? Ryan froze mid-swipe. I'm almost done, he mumbled. Kyle snorted. Almost done? He chuckled darkly. I've seen sloths move faster than you. You think being slow is cute? Ryan kept his head down, fingers gripping the cloth tightly. And don't think, I didn't see you whispering to that guy earlier, Kyle added, pointing toward Ethan. Trying to win sympathy points now. Pathetic. Ryan's face flushed. I was just... Don't bother explaining, Kyle cut in. We all know you're useless. Ethan clenched his fist under the table. This wasn't management. This was bullying. Moments later, the front door chimed as a family entered. 2 parents and their young kids, maybe 5 and 8 years old. Their laughter filled the air as they approached the counter. Ryan's breath hitched. He rushed to grab their order slips, eager for a task to focus on. Kyle stood back, arms crossed, watching like a hawk. Ryan moved quickly, lining up burgers and fries on the tray. But his hand trembled slightly as he reached for the sodas. One large cup slipped, tipping sideways, ice and cola spilling in a wave across the counter and splashing onto the floor. Oh no, Ryan gasped. He snatched a pile of napkins and scrambled to clean the mess. The parents chuckled kindly. It's all right, the mother said. It happens. But Kyle's face twisted with rage. You serious right now? Kyle thundered. He grabbed Ryan's arm, jerking him back from the mess. I told you to get your act together. I'm cleaning it, Ryan stammered, napkins still clenched in his hand. You think that's enough? Kyle snapped. You're a liability. You're lucky these customers aren't demanding refunds. He's just a kid, the father said firmly. It's not that serious. Yeah? Kyle shot back. Well, he's not my problem anymore. His glare locked on Ryan. Get your stuff. You're fired. Ryan's face paled. Please. I can't. My mum. I don't care, Kyle spat. I said get your stuff. The room turned to ice. Customers exchanged uneasy glances, their murmurs low and tense. That's enough. Ethan's voice cut through the silence, low and firm. He pushed his tray aside and rose from his seat, stepping forward with deliberate calm. Kyle's eyes narrowed. And who are you supposed to be? Ethan exhaled slowly, planting himself between Ryan and Kyle. Someone who's seen enough. Yeah, Kyle sneered. Well, this isn't your business, so stay out of it. Oh, but it is my business. Ethan's tone hardened. He reached up, pulling off his cap and hoodie to reveal a crisp, button-down shirt underneath. His presence seemed to fill the room as he straightened his shoulders. I'm Ethan Brooks, he said evenly. CEO of Grill and Go. Kyle's face drained of color. His bravado crumbled instantly. Wait, I've been here for hours, Ethan cut him off. Watching, listening, and I've seen enough to know you've completely failed to do your job. I was just trying to save it. Ethan's voice dropped lower, quieter, but twice as sharp. You've humiliated this young man in front of customers, belittled him for no reason, and fired him for something that wasn't even his fault. Kyle stammered. I didn't mean… You meant exactly what you said, Ethan shot back. And that's the problem. He turned to Ryan, who stood frozen, blinking rapidly as if unsure what was happening. Go take a break, Ethan said gently. I'll handle this. But… I'll lose my shift, Ryan murmured. You're not losing anything, Ethan promised. Trust me. Ryan gave a shaky nod and stumbled toward the back room, still dazed. Ethan turned back to Kyle, his expression turning cold once more. You and I, Ethan said in a low growl, are about to have a long conversation. And I suggest you start thinking very carefully about what you're going to say. Kyle swallowed hard, but Ethan's glare didn't waver. Because this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Kyle stood in the back office, pacing furiously. His fingers fidgeted with a pen, tapping it rapidly against the desk. Every few seconds, his eyes darted to the door, dreading the moment Ethan would walk through. Moments later, the door swung, open. Ethan stepped inside, closing it firmly behind him. The air seemed to tighten around them. Sit, Ethan said, his voice low but unmistakably firm. Kyle scoffed but obeyed, dropping into a battered office chair. Look, Kyle started, his tone defensive. I know what this looks like, but that kid's a mess. Always late, always… Stop! Ethan's voice cut through like a blade. I heard everything. He leaned forward, placing both palms on the desk. You belittled him in front of customers. You insulted him. You fired him over a minor accident, one that the customers didn't even mind. Kyle shifted uncomfortably. He's slow, barely keeps up. This place runs on efficiency. I was just… Efficient, Ethan snapped. I watched you follow him around, the entire shift. You set him up to fail. Kyle's face reddened. I was trying to make sure he did his job. By humiliating him. By dragging him in front of customers, like some kind of joke. Ethan's eyes narrowed. That's not leadership. That's bullying. Kyle's mouth twisted into a sneer. Yeah? Well, maybe if we didn't hire lazy kids like him, I wouldn't have to babysit. Ethan's expression hardened. That kid works a second job after school to help his mum pay rent. He's not lazy. He's exhausted. He paused. And thanks to you, now he's scared to come back. For the first time, Kyle faltered. He swallowed hard, eyes flicking downward. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. Ethan's voice softened just a little. Because you didn't bother to know. You saw a kid who struggled and decided he wasn't worth your patience. He straightened up. I expect my managers to lead, to teach, support, and build their teams up. You didn't do that. He paused, allowing the weight of his words to land. And that's why you're done here. Kyle's eyes widened. Wait, you're firing me. Effective immediately. Ethan's tone was firm. You can gather your things and go. Payroll will send your final check. Kyle shot to his feet, face red with anger. You can't just… I can, Ethan cut in, voice rising. I own this company, and I won't tolerate managers who break people down instead of lifting them up. For a second, Kyle looked like he might argue, but then, with a bitter scoff, he grabbed his jacket off the chair and stormed out the door. Ethan stood in silence for a long moment, exhaling slowly. Then he turned and walked out into the dining area. Ryan was still sitting at one of the tables, nervously folding and unfolding a napkin. When he spotted Ethan, his face paled. Mr. Brooks. I'm sorry, Ryan stammered. I know I messed up. I understand if… Stop, Ethan interrupted. You didn't mess up. Ryan blinked, unsure. But… the drink… It was an accident, Ethan said firmly. And the way Kyle treated you, that wasn't your fault. Ryan swallowed hard. He said I was slow. And I say you're hard-working, Ethan countered. You show up, you put in the effort, and you're learning. That's what matters. He paused. If you still want this job, it's yours. Ryan's face lit up. then flickered with doubt. But what if I mess up again? Then we'll fix it together. Ethan smiled gently. That's what good teams do. For the first time all day, Ryan smiled, small but genuine. Thank you, Ryan said quietly. I won't let you down. I know you won't, Ethan said. The tension in the room seemed to lift. Staff who had been watching silently returned to their tasks with newfound energy. Customers smiled at Ryan as they passed. The storm had passed, and thanks to Ethan, Grill and Go was about to become stronger than ever before. The silence in the manager's office was suffocating. Kyle sat across from Ethan, his face pale and tight. The once cocky manager now seemed far smaller, slouched in his chair like a student facing the principal. So, Ethan began, voice low but firm. Tell me exactly what you thought you were doing back there. Kyle swallowed. I was just keeping things in order. The kid couldn't even wipe tables properly. And that spill, stop. Ethan's voice sharpened. I saw everything. Ryan's a hard worker, the kind of employee we should be supporting, not humiliating. But you bullied him in front of customers. That's not keeping things in order. That's toxic. Kyle's fingers clenched on the armrest. I was just trying to push him to improve. By insulting him? By firing him over a soda spill? Ethan's gaze hardened. No, you were feeding your own ego. Look, I didn't know who you were, Kyle shot back. You can't expect me to treat every random customer like royalty. I'm not asking for that. Ethan leaned forward. But I do expect you to treat employees with respect, especially young employees like Ryan who are trying to build their lives. Kyle shifted in his chair. I've been managing this place for years. I know what works. And yet, Ethan's voice softened dangerously. This store's sales have dropped 12% in the past 3 months. Our employee turnover rate is the highest in the district. And when I visited today, half the customers were uncomfortable because of you. Kyle's face turned red. I didn't know because you never cared enough to find out. Ethan stood. Effective immediately, you're suspended. HR will follow up with you. Suspended? Kyle's eyes widened. Wait, you can't. I can. Ethan's expression hardened. And I will. Kyle sat frozen as Ethan left the office. Out in the dining area, Ryan sat near the back, anxiously gripping a cup of water. His fingers tapped the table as if bracing for the worst. When Ethan approached, Ryan straightened up quickly. Sir, am I still fired? Ryan's voice wavered. No. Ethan smiled softly. In fact, if you're willing, I'd like to offer you more hours. Ryan's eyes widened. More hours? You handled yourself well today. Ethan paused. But more importantly, I know your family's going through a lot. If you're up for it, I'd like to support you. Ryan swallowed hard. Yeah, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. No need to thank me. Ethan placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. You've earned it. Ryan grinned through watery eyes. As Ethan stepped outside, he took one last look at the restaurant's glowing sign. The place had potential, but change was needed, and change would happen. Because at Grill and Go, respect wasn't just optional, it was essential. Stories like Ryan's remind us that kindness and courage can change lives. If you believe in standing up for what's right, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, because there are more inspiring stories to come.